Hello, my name is Justin Kain, and I'm a real estate investor in the Chicagoland area. Now, in the beginning of my life, I was taught, like many of you, that you should just go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and that was really the progression that was taken. $100,000 a year does seem like a very good income. And so I began to experiment with some numbers on that $100,000 a year number, and this is what I was able to find out. What does $100,000 a year really break down to? Well, we did some numbers, and if you make $50 per hour times 40 hours a week times 50 weeks a year, that will bring you to $100,000. And most people would say that making six figures a year is a very good job. But let's extrapolate out, or let's go out 40 years. Let's say that you work from the time you're 25 to the time you're 65. That's a 40-year period. What does $100,000 times 40 years equal? Well, that equals $4 million. And $4 million is what, if you were very, very successful, let's say that you are extremely successful, you'll make about $4 million in your lifetime. Now, this isn't for somebody who is just your common, ordinary, average individual. I don't know how many people you know that make $100,000 a year and are just common and ordinary. But most people that I know that make that much or more are they're motivated, they're on top of things, they're in the top 95 or that top 5% of people in the United States. So let's say that this path is the top 5% of the United States. If you are it, you're going to make about $4 million in your lifetime. And that's, not counting inflation, but it's a really small number if you think about it in terms of what you're going to make over the course of your entire lifetime. So let's see what $4 million breaks down to. Now, if you're in the $100,000 a year and over tax bracket, you're in about a 38% tax bracket. So 38%, let's round it up to 40. 40% of this number is going to go away in taxes. So 40% of $4 million is $1.6 million that you will pay in your W-2 income over the next 40 years in taxes, leaving you with $2,400,000. So let's do another quick calculation. How many people do you know that save 10% of their net income? I don't know very many people, but the people that I do know that save this much money, or 10% of their income, are very, very good with money. They're financially savvy. They're definitely in the top 5% of the people that I know. So let's say that you save 10% of your money over the next 40 years. You will save about $240,000 if you average it over the next 40 years. $240,000 over the course of your lifetime. Now, I know that may seem like a small amount of money, but this is a realistic, if you're in the top 5%, this is a realistic amount of money to expect to save over the course of your lifetime. So let's talk about what $240,000 invested into a 401k or invested in mutual funds or in savings might do. Let's say that over the course of the 40 years, this number quadruples. And I know this is a very simplified version of what may happen, but it is simplified for this example only. And you can do all kinds of different things with it, but $240,000, let's say that you quadruple that number over the next 40 years. That turns into $960,000 by the time you're 65 years old, and let's say that you've got that in a 401k that you've built up over the last 40 years of your lifetime of work. Alright, so we've established that if you're in the top 5% of income earners in the United States, and you save diligently and you make six figures a year, you're going to have about $960,000 in your 401k when you retire, if the stock market does what it's supposed to do and you're decently successful as an investor. Now, $960,000 may seem like a huge amount of money to retire on, but what does that break down to? That breaks down to $3,000 per month in retirement over a 20-year period. Now, how many people want to live on $3,000 a month? I know when I saw this statistic that I was not one of those people that wanted to just live on $3,000 a month in retirement. Heck, that doesn't even buy you gas and put food on the table when, 40 years from now. So I think that one of the main concepts here is to think about how much money will our money be worth, or how much buying power will our money be worth 40 years from now when we're in retirement. This was very scary to me when I saw that with Social Security and with a very good retirement plan, I still was not going to be able to become a wealthy retiree. I was not going to ever have the chance to do all the things that I wanted to be able to do. So I began to search for another way. And I want to make sure that you understand that there is another way to do this. Let's look at that other way. The other way involves real estate and business ownership. Now, buying up real estate at this stage of the game in this economy is a very good idea because it's so far undervalued. It's on sale. I mean, it's like a 50% off sale at the mall. Real estate right now, you can pick up and be very successful at it and put renters in it and walk through that process of owning a real estate portfolio. So let's say that you don't do anything crazy, but you're 25, or you just start to invest where you're at right now. In the next 10 years, you buy 10 homes. You just buy one a year. And let's say that over the course of the next 30 years after you do that, you actually pay off the mortgages on those homes and you maintain those homes and the renters that are in them. So 10 homes, you've taken 10 years to purchase them, and then you've taken 30 years to pay them off. So now you're 65 and you have 10 homes. So you're 65 years old and you begin to take account of what you have. Now, what do you think rent is going to be on those homes 40 years from now? I don't know about you, but when my parents were renting, I think they were paying $80 per month for a 2-bedroom apartment. This was back in the 70s. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you can't even rent a TV for $80 a month anymore. So what do you think 40 years from now that rent will be? I think through a process of going through the rental rates, I think it's going to be around $4,000 a month for a regular single-family home. I mean, right now it's $1,500 at least for a regular single-family home for a person to rent. 40 years from now, I think it's going to be about $4,000 a month. Now, $4,000 a month times 10 homes equals $40,000 per month in monthly income. Now, $40,000 a month seems like a lot, but you might say, well, you have to maintain the houses, you have to replace the roofs, you have to pay for management, you have to pay for somebody to go take care of everything, you have to pay for this and that. Those all may be true, but what is 40,000 divided by 2? 40,000, let's say that you put 50% of your money back into those homes, you're still making $20,000 per month on a passive basis by owning those 10 houses free and clear. Now, would you rather have $20,000 a month or $3,000 a month? I think the obvious answer is $20,000. And I said, well, of course I'd rather have $20,000 a month. Now, have you ever seen the price of rent go down? I haven't. It's called appreciation. Rent goes up with the cost of real estate. Now, when the price of our gas appreciates, we call it inflation. But when the price of our home appreciates, we call it appreciation. And rental rates go up consistently every year. Now, they haven't gone up as much in the past couple of years as they normally do, but that's because of the downturn in the economy. But we could safely say that when you're 65, you'd probably be making more than $20,000 a month when you're 85. Most people are living past the age of 65, 70. I had a grandmother who was 106 when she died. The centennial population, the population past 100, is the fastest growing population in the United States today. So, choosing a $20,000 a month path or perhaps a $3,000 a month path. There isn't very much thought that needs to go into this before we say, well, how do I learn how to get the 10 homes? Well, it's not just the $20,000 a month. How much would that home be worth? 10 homes in 40 years from now. Well, we have to go 40 years ago. In 1963, the median average home price in the United States was $18,000. And in 2004, the median average home price was about $180,000. Now these are rounded off. $18,000 to $180,000 is about 10 times in 40 years. So, if we don't go 10 times, if we just do 5 times, this is approximate, 5 times 180 is approximately $900,000, give or take. We could probably go up just a little bit because we're not using a historical average, we're using half the historical average. So let's say that your home that you purchased in the next few years is going to be worth $1 million per home when you're 65 years old or 40 years from now. Now, you may say, that's crazy. I'm sure that people who only paid $18,000 back in 1963 would have said that we are crazy if we ever paid $180,000 or $200,000 or $240,000 for a house. The same reaction that you may be saying to, oh, a house is going to be worth $1 million, is probably the reaction that they had, the house being worth $18,000. You see, it's the same reaction. But based on historical trends and based on what's happening in the economy right now, can you see the price of your houses going to $1 million? That's called appreciation. We know that the government prints money, and we know that the government has printed a lot of money. It's called budget deficits. It's called running a national debt of over $8 trillion. We know that the home prices are going to be worth more 40 years from now than they are today. Well, what's 10 times $1 million? 10 times $1 million is a $10 million net worth when you are 65. Because remember, you've paid off these houses over the previous 30 years. A $10 million net worth that's going to grow, that you're going to be able to pass on to your kids, to their kids, as an inheritance, pass it on to charity, do whatever you want with it. Is $10 million better than $960,000? And remember, once you've spent the $3,000 a month for 20 years, this $960,000 is gone. You can't get it back. You are not going to be able to leave an inheritance for your children if you continue on this path. But you could go on this path. If you want to learn how to get started on this path, I want you to click on the Get Started Now link on this page. Thank you for watching, and now you understand why it's imperative to understand the principles of business ownership and real estate investing, and not just to understand them, but to act on them.